The first time James saw Mino, she was dissecting a Crowdery battle hymn with the methodical precision of a xenobiologist examining a new species. Her silver-blue skin shimmered under the artificial lights of the diplomatic station, and her arms moved in fluid coordination as she parsed the alien text on her holographic display. "Fascinating," she murmured in her melodic voice, seemingly unaware that James had been watching from the observation deck for the better part of an hour. These creatures believe that vocal harmonics can actually influence quantum probability fields. Such primitive thinking. James cleared his throat. Maybe they're onto something. Mino's large opalescent eyes fixed on him with the kind of analytical gaze that made lesser beings feel like specimens under a microscope. As a member of the ethereal collective, she was accustomed to being the most advanced intelligence in any room. Humans, in her experience, were curious but ultimately limited creatures, useful for their unpredictability but hardly worth serious consideration. "Ah, the human diplomat," she said, her tone carrying the polite disinterest her species was known for. "James Morrison, if my records are correct, tell me, do your people also believe in such superstitions?" "Sometimes the primitive approach is the right one," James replied, settling into the chair across from her. "Your people's mating rituals, for instance. Very efficient, very logical." Mino's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. Among the HFY ethereal collective, reproduction was indeed a matter of cold calculation. Two beings would analyze their genetic compatibility through quantum resonance, exchange biodata, and undergo the physical process in sterile chambers with the same emotional investment as filing a tax return. "Of course it is logical," she said. "The continuation of superior genetic lines through optimal pairing. What could be more rational?" James smiled, that peculiar human expression that had puzzled xenobiologists for decades. "On Earth, we do things differently." Over the following weeks, as negotiations between their species continued, James found himself drawn to Mino's brilliant mind and her absolute certainty about the universe's workings. She was everything his species was not: calculated, logical, supremely confident in the superiority of intellect over emotion, and she was utterly wrong about what made life worth living. "Your species confuses me," Mino admitted one evening as they reviewed trade agreements in her quarters. "You make decisions based on emotional responses that contradict optimal outcomes. You form attachments that serve no evolutionary purpose. You waste resources on art, music, literature, things that provide no survival advantage." "Maybe survival isn't the point," James suggested. "Then what is?" Instead of answering directly, James began to show her. Not through lectures or data presentations, but through the simple human practice of courtship, though he never called it that. He brought her coffee from Earth, explaining how humans had turned a simple stimulant into a ritual of connection, sharing warmth and conversation in small moments of peace. He showed her human music, not as acoustic patterns to be analyzed, but as emotional landscapes that could transport consciousness across time and space. When she questioned the inefficiency of human poetry, he recited verses that made her skin flush in colors she'd never experienced before. When she dismissed human dancing as purposeless movement, he took her 4 hands in his too and showed her how bodies could communicate in ways that transcended language. "This is highly irregular," she protested, even as her biorhythm synchronized with his in patterns that would have scandalized her homeworld's reproductive oversight committee. "The best things usually are," James replied. The breakthrough came during a cultural exchange ceremony. The Crowdery delegation performed one of their battle hymns, the same type Mino had been studying. But instead of analyzing the quantum probability fluctuations, James simply listened. And in that moment of openness, something impossible happened. The probability fields actually shifted, not because of alien superstition or primitive thinking, but because the Crowdery's emotional investment in their performance created genuine quantum entanglement with the local space-time matrix. The mathematics were sound. The ethereal collective had simply been too rational to consider that consciousness itself might be a fundamental force. Mino's worldview shattered and reformed in that instant. "How did you know?" she asked him later, her voice smaller than he'd Ever heard it? I didn't, James admitted. That's the point. Your people try to calculate every outcome before you act. Sometimes you have to trust that the universe might surprise you. And this feeling I have when I'm with you? She asked, her multiple hands tracing patterns on his skin. This is what humans call love? James considered the question seriously. Love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice. It's deciding that someone else's happiness matters as much as your own, even when it's not logical. It's building something together that's bigger than the sum of its parts. Mina was quiet for a long moment, processing this information in ways her species' most advanced computers couldn't match. My people will think I've been contaminated by human irrationality, she said finally. Maybe, James agreed. But maybe they'll realize that the universe is a lot more interesting when you stop trying to solve it like an equation. When the negotiations concluded, both species had gained more than trade agreements and territorial boundaries. They'd discovered that intelligence without wonder was merely calculation, and that the most profound truths couldn't be measured in quantum fluctuations or genetic optimization protocols. Mino chose to remain with James, becoming the first of her species to reject the collective's predetermined mating assignments in favor of what humans called love. Her decision sent ripples through ethereal society that would reshape their understanding of consciousness, connection, and what it truly meant to be alive. You were right about one thing, she told James, as they watched Earth's sun set through the viewport of their shared quarters. Survival isn't the point. Living is. And in that moment, the universe felt a little more magical than either of their species had dared imagine.